I'm thrilled to welcome back singer, songwriter, and actor Ben Platt. Ben, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for giving me an excuse to wear real clothes today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Same here. Same here. It's my first collared shirt in a long time.
Oh, yeah. So let's start with a basic but important question. Where are you right now?
I am in my childhood home in Los Angeles, where I grew up, living with my parents and my little brother right now. And usually I'm in New York, but circumstances extenuating, here I am.
So how is it going being with your family for the first time in, I can imagine, many years?
It's been really good. I mean, it's, a horribly unfortunate situation we're all in, but the one silver lining has really been this extra time to spend as a family. I'm usually the only fledgling out on the East Coast, other than my little brother who goes to Penn for school. So I never really envisioned that I'd be spending multiple months home with everyone. So it's been a nice silver byproduct to get to spend extra time with the family. It's been really good. Been reverting a little bit to my teenage self, but otherwise good.
I would be doing the same thing, believe me. So obviously we heard your song, So Will I, at the beginning of the show. Is it true that you wrote and recorded the whole thing during self-isolation?
Yes, it is. I at the very beginning of quarantine, I knew I wanted to write something about what was going on, and I was a bit skeptical about Zoom writing over Zoom, like a FaceTime session, and but then I had the idea for the song, and I loved it too much not to try. So I Zoomed with Michael Pollack, who's one of my most frequent collaborators, and the two of us really clicked over Zoom. Thankfully, we had a lot of pre-existing dynamic and relationship, and we wrote the song over the course of a couple hours. And then I sent it over to Phineas digitally, and he produced from within his own home and played all the instruments himself. And within about a week, we had the full song.
So how did that process work? Were you listening to music over Zoom and then singing back and forth? Were there multiple people on it? I imagine that was probably a really interesting challenge to have to deal with.
It was a really new kind of dystopian experience at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it was just Michael and I sort of came to him, much like we are on Zoom together now, and said, this is the idea for the song. This is the concept. I would love it to be someone posing all of these what ifs and fears, and then the singer is comforting them with each sort of answer and constant. And then Michael was at his piano and he would start playing some chords, and I would try to hear through my earphones and be like, those sound nice, or that sounds nice. And we would just kind of go back and forth and try melodies. And eventually 2 or 3 hours in, we had kind of a structure of a song. And then once the song itself was written, Phineas really did the production very much on his own. And he's incredibly talented in the sense that he really was able to just kind of thrive solo.
That's great. And I know you recently gave an interview where you talked about how you wanted to write this song and you thought it could really speak to this moment. Can you talk a little bit about what you meant by that?
Sure. I definitely wanted to write something that could resonate right now, but that had the ability to sort of live on, because as we all know and hope, this is a very temporary situation. And I think the song is a lot about when things get a little overwhelming, or when there's too much fear, or you're feeling kind of weighed down by the heaviness of the world, which I know I was feeling, and I'm sure everybody is feeling right now, that there are things that are constant, and that there are things that will always be there for you, whether they be, as simple as the ground and the sky and the sun, or obviously eventually the message of the song is the other people in your life will always be there for you, and there are people who are looking out for you and who love you. And yeah.
I love that. That's a beautiful message for these times. And obviously, you are a big believer in the power of art to move people, especially during times of crisis. I know you have a long history in the arts. You began your career on Broadway with roles in The Music Man and The Book of Mormon. You obviously originated the title role in Dear Evan Hansen. But this is a really tough time for the creative arts community. A lot of shows are on hiatus, productions have been suspended. And I want to bring in a question from one of our viewers, D in the US, who asks, what does the future of art look like, and how can we make sure it doesn't disappear?
I think that's a great question. I'm feeling very heartened by the fact that so many people have been continuing to produce art. And I think in times of crisis or in times of hardship, if anything, it sort of lights a fire under everybody's butt to create more art. I think people have more that they want to say and write about, and have a greater need to connect than ever. So I would hope that if anything, this will create some sort of a renaissance, and maybe we'll have to adjust, at least for a while, the way that we are interacting in terms of live art and concerts and music and theater. But God willing, even that will return to normal. But I think in terms of the material that's coming out, I know people are so hungry now more than ever for content and for stories and for escape and for music. And so I'm very hopeful that art's going to continue to thrive in a new way even.
Yeah, so am I. And for people that maybe want to help, are there any organizations you would recommend supporting? I know you've done some work with the Actors Fund.
Yes, very much so. The Actors Fund is very important to me. My boyfriend, Noah Galvin, his father lives in one of the homes that they provide, and they just do an incredible job. And they are taking care of people all over the industry, not just, the top line actors that you're seeing on Broadway and your playbills, everybody in the whole cast, the crews, every part of the industry, the Actors Fund is taking care of. So definitely the Actors Fund. Oh, there's so many worthy organizations. Obviously, anything to WHO or CDC or food banks. The LA Food Bank is doing an incredible job. New York as well. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with helping out right now, as long as it's going to somewhere that's going to put the money to action.
And speaking of which, I know you've long been a vocal advocate for the LGBTQ community, especially LGBTQ youth, who are particularly at risk during times like these. What are some ways that you and the people watching this could support that community?
I think just continuing to live as authentically and freely as possible. And I always try never to edit any of my stories or my perspective or the songs or the pronouns or any of that. I try to just be as honest and as forward as I can be with who I am. And my sexuality is a part of that. And I guess I would say just continue to watch the art that reflects you and listen to the artists that reflect you and watch the stories that reflect you and know that there are people like you who are supporting you, even if the people that you are stuck with or quarantined with don't necessarily. There are so many people who do, me included.
Great. That is an amazing message. And just to close it all out, I know you've managed to keep writing and singing and creating even while in self-isolation, but once this is all over, because it will be over, what is one piece of art, a show, a musical, a concert that you are most looking forward to seeing in person?
That's an amazing question. I have two answers. The first would be I want to go back to Jagged Little Pill, which is the Alanis Morissette musical that my friend Catherine Gallagher is one of the stars of. She's giving an incredible performance that got cut short by this, and I really hope that they get back on their feet so she can do it some more. And the other would probably be, I'm really excited to see The Music Man, which is coming after, hopefully, God willing, all this is done, with Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster. That'll be on Broadway as well. And that's just that was my first job I ever had when I was 9 years old, was to be in Music Man. And so that will be such a kind of full circle moment. And it's such a joyful American piece. And I think now more than ever, it's going to be a joy to watch that.